Hello and welcome to another edition of M&H Breakfast Banter. Thank you for joining us. M is Anita Menon and H is me, Ron Howard. Anita, today I think we have our youngest guest, don't we?
I think so.
And maybe our fastest talking one as well.
Yes.
So I
But
don't
it's going to
think
be
we're going
fun.
to get many words in today, are we?
We'll have to keep up with him, Ron.
I don't speak very quickly. Anyway, we have some tired-looking breakfast here, don't we?
Don't say
What is
that.
it?
It's
What
just
is it?
arrived. It's from Starbucks because
Well, it's the tea, isn't
you
it?
don't like
That's
too
all
much
you need.
adventure, right?
That's all you need, tea. But what are the sandwiches?
I think some sandwiches.
Some kind of sandwiches. That's a good breakfast. So, I think our guest also was the first one to ask to be on the podcast. So that's the
Yes.
first, and I thank you very much for that. I'll leave it to Anita to introduce you.
So, Talha, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having
You
me.
are by far the youngest, guest on our podcast, and we're very, very happy to have you. What you're doing is pretty much on the realm of breakthrough, and we understand that this is what the future is going to be. Just that we don't understand it too well,
No, I
but we will
agree.
try to.
It's
Okay,
and that's
so-
why I'm here.
Yeah, because we want to be forward-looking businesses at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So
Can I start on that first line then?
yes,
An enabler of business in GCC to transition, build, and scale into Web3. Can you tell me what Web 1, 2, and 3 are?
Definitely. So the internet came out in 90s, right? Initially, it was used by military.
I remember it.
Yeah, it was initially used by military, and then later on, it became available to the public. When it came out to the public, it did not had much use apart from just few static web pages on the internet where users could just go and consume information. That's it. Nothing else could be done. The good thing about that time period was that it was decentralized, which means that no one single person or entity controlled that organization. So that was Web 1, 1990s till 2004. I wasn't born yet. I read this in the book. Then in 2004, these new companies started coming out, like Facebook, Amazon, Google, and all that stuff, which sort of changed the internet. Which initially it was like read-only internet, which like users could just consume information.
you can contribute.
Yeah, but now it became where users could contribute as well, read and write. But it was really good. It has helped us come where we are today. But there were few things that were wrong with the internet, right? Mainly three things, which was that it was too centralized. These big giant corporations controlled the majority of the internet, right? Google, Facebook, Amazon, these guys rule over the internet. They make the most money, and everyone else is just a small thing in the side. The second was there was no any payment embedded into the system. Every transaction that was on the internet would have to be done through an intermediary like a bank or a payment provider like PayPal and so on. And the third was basically there was no concept of ownership, right? Now, fast forward to 2014, 2009 actually, there came a new technology called the blockchain technology. Satoshi Nakamoto was a guy who released this white paper, and it was like the currency of the future, something like that. But initially it wasn't picked up well. 2014, the term Web3 was coined, but still it wasn't done. But towards 2017 and 2018, this thing started becoming really big. Now, and this technology, blockchain technology, solved those three problems that I talked about initially, right? Which was it was too centralized. Now, everything that we have on our phone, our computer, everything is too centralized. Google owns it, Facebook owns it, Microsoft owns it. But now with this technology, when new application would be built, it would be decentralized. It means no one person would have control or no one organization would have a control.
And there's no need for an intermediary.
No. And the second was the payment system, right? So now let's say if I want to send you a payment online, I either have to rely on a bank, I either have to rely on PayPal or something. But with cryptocurrencies, we can do peer-to-peer transaction instantaneously without relying on these middlemen, right? And another problem was that the fiat system, which I think he knows more, initially it was backed by gold, right? But the gold standard was broken in 1970 by President Nixon, and then the US, they started printing as money as one. So, but it's not backed by anything, right?
Yeah.
And that caused a lot of these problems. So the idea behind Bitcoin mainly is to solve this problem. It's like to fix the financial system. And lastly, the concept of ownership, which is that we don't own anything on the internet at the moment, right? So let's say all the things that you buy digitally, right? Your songs or in-game assets or things, you're just renting it. These companies own them. But with something called NFT, which is a non-fungible token, you can own item. The easiest example is like you've seen Fortnite. So, yeah, my brother plays a lot, right? And he buys these skins, these assets in game. But the thing is, although he pays for it, he does not own it, and those companies at any time can take it back, right? And it's locked within those walled gardens, which means that I cannot take my item to any other thing. But with this technology, I can take that asset to me within any game, and then I can sell it instantaneously. So I used to play a game called FIFA a lot, right? And in that game, I created a lot of value, right? I used to play, I used to earn, and I had millions of coins within the game, right? Because I spent my time and I earned that coin. But the problem was when I wanted to take that value that I've created out of that system, they would not allow me, right? They would stop me, they would ban my account. So I used to sell those coins on eBay and stuff like that just to make some money. But what they used to do, they used to ban my account. But because this technology wasn't there at that time. But now this technology will enable that the value that we create on these systems or platforms, we can cash out and take to other systems. So it becomes sort of interoperable.
I kind of feel very old at the moment listening to all of that.
Yeah, but
I'm following everything.
Yeah. So that's basically it, right? The let's say the foundation of the internet is changing, right? And that's what we are doing. We're helping these companies, forward-looking companies, prepare for it, right? What we do is that we explain them first what's happening, and the second we do the actual execution for them. We build these softwares or these programs for them so they can basically, go forward.
Okay, so that is basically Web 1 moving to Web 2, and now we're on Web 3. I've got a lot of questions, but before we jump into all that, we need to know, where do you come from? How did you get into this? What's your background like?
Yeah. So I'm an immigrant from Pakistan. I was born in Pakistan, lived in UAE for 4 years, and came to Bahrain. Ever since I was a kid, I was a really good student, always at the top of my class, because my mother told me that, Talha, the only way to get ahead in life is to be good at studies. And I followed her advice from first grade to 12th grade. I was always at the top of my class or of my school. But when I went to university, some experiences told me that, Talha, if I kept on doing what my mother is telling me or the society is telling me, I wouldn't go where I want to go. So from there on, then I shifted my focus from my studies. Like I just kept my focus where I could just pass. And then I started learning skills and learning, how to make money online. And then one day I was applying for a lot of different jobs.
Yes, can you tell us about that, please? Because I understand that you may have applied for a job with the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
But my partner.
When was this?
When
did you apply?
I think initially.
What happened there?
Yeah, in the start of 2017, when I joined university, again, when this hit me that I need to start making money, I applied to every company I could find on LinkedIn, actually. Butterfly, yeah, right? But I couldn't get a response. And yeah.
Need to do something about your internal systems there. Because I think you would have been a perfect fit for Butterfly.
I don't think if I'd spoken to him, or I would probably have been a different story. But I'm very glad that it didn't happen.
Exactly.
Because you're doing so many wonderful things now.
Exactly. So from there on, then I wanted to make money online. I thought to myself, what skills do I have? I was really good at writing. And I used to write essays in class, right? I used to get full marks in English. So look, let's take that and let's try to sell it. I created an Instagram page. I messaged 100 people per day. One of them replied, paid me $50, $60. And that kind of was a changing moment for me, that I can make money online without relying on any company paying me to do that. I can be my own boss. Because to do in a comparison, I made $60 in 30 minutes for working, like writing 500 words. And my father used to work full day and he made around 10 BD in a bank. So that really changed my mindset. I wasn't aware of the freelancing world that is out there. So from there on, then I I have found what I want to do. I just have to scale it.
And how old were you then?
Around 18 or 17 or 18, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So from there on, then I scaled that agency, right? Where I knew that if I just kept on writing, I wouldn't be able to grow it, right? Because I only have a limited number of hours in a day. I had to delegate. So I had to learn the skills of managing mainly. So I hired a bunch of writers in Pakistan, 10 or 20 writers, created a WhatsApp group. And here I found someone, I told them, okay, just go find work for me, bring it to me, I'll close them. Because I sort of started learning people skill as well. I read a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People that changed my life. Dale Carnegie. That book brought me here. So from there on, then I took that agency to a scale where I was, without putting actual work to it, like building systems, I was able to make enough money to support myself and my family while I was in university. But the thing with us human beings that we are never satisfied. We always want more. And that was the case with me, that I wanted to grow further. right? So from there on, then I took that business, sort of delegated it, and shifted my focus to figure out new things there. And meanwhile, while I was in university, I made friends. I was very fortunate to make friends with Shehroz and Talha, my co-founders. Those guys are the smartest people I've ever
Whose
met.
name is also
Talha,
Talha.
yeah, yeah.
That is some coincidence.
Yeah. So those guys were basically, I was more money focused, right? I wanted to make money, and those guys were focused on building things, building games, building application, and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of hit me that what I've done with the writing agency, I can do the same thing. I just find work, give them to do it, and just we take it from there. So that kind of worked out as well. From there on, then we sort of landed an internship at Amazon Web Services, right? AWS, it's like cloud provider. We went to an event. We won that event, unfortunately, like surprisingly, not unfortunately. That event sort of gave us more exposure, and then we landed a job there. We worked there for 1 year, but we were like, okay, why work for someone else when we have the skills, we can build our own startup. We sort of started our own startup called VoiceMate, which basically, the problem is that there are around 400 million people in the world who are deaf, who cannot communicate. So let's say if I'm deaf and you don't speak sign language, there's a very difficult problem between you and me to communicate.
Yeah.
So we sort of created a device which would sort of act as a translator. So you would speak to a device, and that device would just sign to me. And then when I would sign in the camera, it would speak back to you, sort of a sign language translator. So we built that product, but the thing was we didn't have experience of running a company. We didn't have experience of raising money. So that kind of, we're talking to a bunch of investors in Bahrain. And to be very honest, we weren't ready at that time. So we were just exploring different things. I started looking into drop shipping. It was basically, I saw a video on TikTok where people were making millions of dollars by, building these online stores. So how dropshipping works is that you sort of have a front end, right? Customers orders you, you take the order, you give it to one of the suppliers in Alibaba, and then it ships you. So you're just a middleman in them. So I was looking into that. But during 2021, one of my friends, Shehroz, told me, Talha, there's something called, I told him, Shehroz, we need to do something big. It's enough, we need to figure out ways to do bigger stuff. And he was like, okay, Talha, there's something called NFT. I was like, leave that, run dropshipping, there's millions of dollars in it. I was like, but as soon as he said, no, there is millions in NFTs, he had my attention. So
to tell our audience what NFTs are.
Yes, so I'll get to that part there. So there was this new technology that with which people were buying images online and making millions of dollars. And I couldn't understand why, but I was interested. So I went there, started researching, and I figured out that there's this whole world out there, which I've been ignorant about. Although I was a software engineer, I wasn't aware of this world, which was basically that in 2009, a new technology called blockchain came out, which sort of enabled cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. And then that technology created sort of NFTs, which stands for non-fungible token, which means that you can have ownership of digital assets for the first time, right? In the past, if you were a digital artist, right, and you created a picture of a cat, and you tried to sell me, Talha, buy that picture. Why would I buy that picture from you? I could just take a screenshot and I have a copy of it. But now with this technology, what it does is that, let's say if I create a picture of a cat, I mint a token on the blockchain that I put that I was the first one to create the cat picture on the blockchain. Even if someone tries to copy it, I would be able to verify which one is the original one. So that's why it's a massive shift for digital creators, digital artists to create art online, because people can buy it and it's verifiable.
And it's even if they replicate, it's
Yeah.
not, it's still not work.
Exactly, just like Mona Lisa, right? So the original Mona Lisa, right? If I go and ask them, take a copy and tell them to change with me, they wouldn't, because they know which one is the original one. In a similar way, with this technology, we can verify which piece of digital art is original one created from the original artist, right? And it cannot be fake.
Okay, so if there is a actual physical piece of art, that is digitally converted into a digital painting.
No, mostly this technology is for digital artists,
So
mainly.
you have to create digital art only.
Exactly, but physical artists are also doing that as well. They can have a digital twin, as to say. But mostly it was for digital artists. There was an artist called Beeple that created a picture called, I can't remember the name, Everyday 500. If you can put a picture of there when you're editing this one. It's basically sold for $69 million, a digital piece of art, right? Because that artist used to create digital art every day, but there wasn't a way people could buy it, because again, it's so easily, copies can be made. But with this technology, you can, even though you can make a copy, you cannot prove that you have the original one. So that was a shift with it. So when I understood what's going on, I wanted to take action, because knowledge without action is useless. So we sort of created a project called Realm of Cuboids. It was basically a game that was which people can play if they have this digital token, right? We launched that project, and in 3 weeks, it sold out. We made 80K, or 60 to 80K between in cryptocurrencies. And that was again kind of a changing moment for us, that there is this works, right? So with that project, we learned a lot, but there was one problem and one opportunity. The problem was that this space was very confusing for us initially. It was too difficult, too complex technology-wise, and we couldn't find anyone to help us, right? We couldn't find anyone in Bahrain, we couldn't find anyone online, and even though we were finding someone, they were not reliable, they were charging a lot. So the only solution was we have to learn ourselves. So we solved that problem by learning ourselves. But the opportunity was that everyone started coming to us. Can you guys help us do that? Can you guys do it for us? From there on, then we started the side hustles as three friends by providing services to other people initially. We were focused more on product, not the company. But this company was like, okay, a side income for us. But little did I knew that this would turn into a company. Now, 1 year later, we are working with some of the biggest brands and helping them come into the space.
Nice.
Yeah.
There are two terms that we use that we understand, that again the listeners might not, which are blockchain and crypto.
Yeah. Okay, so the easiest way to explain blockchain is it's a new way of storing information, right? Right now, everything is stored in centralized servers, right? Everything is like, even though the banks, the ledgers that we have in the bank, that how much you own is in a centralized ledger, and it can be changed, right? If someone wanted to change it. But with this technology, what happens is, let's say, imagine there's a magical book, okay? And in that magical book, it's written Talha owns $10, Anita owns $10, right? In that magical book. And every one of us has a copy of that magical book. So at any given time, if you come and want to check how much Anita owns or Talha owns, you can check in that book, right? And if you wanted to change it, you would have to change in every book. And like now in this example, the 3 books. And imagine if there are millions of copies of that book, it could not be changed. So that's the concept of blockchain. Once something is stored on the blockchain, it's very impossible to change it, right? So that's blockchain. Crypto. So blockchain is the technology, and cryptocurrency is sort of the first application of blockchain, right? As I mentioned that in this magical book, things cannot be changed. So with cryptocurrency, once a certain amount of tokens have been created, it cannot be changed. So the problem with, and we have to go back all the way when people used to exchange stones for value, but then we came for the currency. That currency was initially backed by gold, but that gold standard was broken, and these countries, mostly US, started printing as much money as they want. Now, what crypto does is that it fixes that problem. So there is going to be always an infinite amount of supply, and no one can change that, mainly with Bitcoin. So with Bitcoin, for example, Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, which means there are only going to be 21 million Bitcoins ever created. It cannot be created. Unlike US dollars, you can print as much as they want. So that's cryptocurrency. And the second thing, it enables peer-to-peer transaction. So let's say if I want to send money to my brother in Pakistan, I would have to go through like 3 or 4 banks. They would take a percentage for them. Like, why? Right? They're just enabling me. With crypto, I can send him like right now, and he would receive with any transaction.
So crypto fell from about $66,000 a token down to less than 20,000, and is back up to 27 now. And you've had FTX and all these other places going into liquidation. Yep. Does it have a future?
So the thing with that is that, okay, it went to 60K because, unlike anything, people overhyped it, right? The value of cryptocurrencies increase when people start putting money in, right? So in every bull cycle or any kind of market, with stocks as well, right? When people start putting more money in, it started going up, right? So the same thing was with Bitcoin. It really, people started putting in money without understanding what was going on.
Putting in money or mining it?
So there's 2 different things.
Yes, because mining creates crypto.
Exactly. So the mining is like, okay, so let's say if you send me 1 Bitcoin, right now to my wallet address, that transaction has to be settled somewhere, right? One of the computers in the world would perform a mathematical calculation and approve that transaction. So that solving of a mathematical calculation is basically called mining, right? In the olden days, you used to mine it, like mine gold. Yeah. In a similar way, when any transaction is happening on that blockchain, the process of recording that transaction is called mining.
Yeah. Right.
Interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that very specifically.
You know that. Yeah. We've got one here that hasn't been touched upon yet, which is the metaverse.
Yeah, metaverse. Okay, metaverse is, again, it ties into with everything. It's really nascent, right? Even there isn't a word in the dictionary for the metaverse yet. But initially, this term was coined by a writer called, I forgot his name. He was a novelist, and he coined this term called the metaverse. And the idea was that we'll have this 3D immersive virtual experience where people will start living it. But at the end of the day, what metaverse is, first, it's a 3D environment, right? Second, it's immersive, right? Which can be accessed by either a 2D device, right? Like a laptop or phone or laptop, or with these VR devices.
Yeah.
And the thing that makes it a metaverse is basically the transactions in those metaverse is done through cryptocurrencies, and assets in that metaverse is on through NFTs. So right now, if we tell like this is a metaverse, right? This is the 2D metaverse. We're doing everything on our phone. It's just a matter of time when we have a technological breakthrough, whether either some of these glasses or some sort of lens, we start living in a virtual environment. Have you seen Ready Player One?
Yes.
So
It's a
that's
fantastic movie.
exactly. So that's sort of a concept of metaverse, but we aren't there yet. Right now, we are very, very early stages. There are some use cases, but it isn't there yet to its full potential as of now.
Excellent. So suppose let's take a real life example. You said that Web3 is how forward-looking companies should focus at, and they need to move forward there. If Butterfly Effect had to become a Web3 company, what does that mean? What do I have to do? What's the level of preparedness I need to have for my digital company?
Exactly. So there's a lot of things that can be done. I'll start with the metaverse example, right? 20 years back, if I would ask you, Anita, build a website for your business, you wouldn't have listened to me, right? 10 years back, I would have told you, Anita, you should have a social media channel because that's where the audience is going to be, right? In a similar way, so now you have a website as well. You have all sort of digital presence because that's where your customers are, right? In a similar way, in few years, we don't know what this metaverse is going to look like, but the end users are going to be there, right? These young, and when I say end user, I mean the young kids. If you, because I kind of recognize patterns. These young kids are always on their phones or playing these games, Roblox, Minecraft. So those kids are very familiar with this kind of stuff, and they are the customers of the future.
Transition into it very easily.
Exactly. So for example, Butterfly Flu as a business, first you need to be on these platforms where your future customers are, right?
Okay.
That's one thing. And the second is basically there's a lot that can be done. I cannot say anything initially, but I can give you an example of what we are working with. So let's say we are working with a company called Bugatti Group. They are a Canadian company and they manufacture handbags. Now the thing was that whenever they come up with a new product, they
It's a luxury burger.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
So they basically what they used to do is that they used to manufacture a lot of bags beforehand, before even one single product was sold. And when we came in with their idea, we kind of shifted that process, right? Whenever they want to come with a new product, we create a digital version first, right? And that digital version is sold as a token first.
So first you do a demand creation.
Exactly. Now, how many ever token gets sold, right? They only manufacture
those many numbers.
So it helped them reduce cost, increase profit. And the thing is that people could buy that token, and that token is like, it's like it has an actual value. It cannot be replicated. So let's say if Bugatti creates 2,000 tokens, they're only going to be 2,000 tokens ever, because it cannot be reduced or increased.
So that is a scarcity-driven
marketing. Exactly. Kind of, yeah.
Nice. Excellent.
That's just one example. Yeah.
That's
So
great.
is blockchain and crypto, are they quite widespreadly used in Bahrain?
Yes and no. A lot of people are aware of it, and especially in Bahrain, the regulations are really good. If you're not sure, there are these exchanges like Rain, Rain, Coinmina, and all these, right? So the first step into the world of Web3 is sort of exchanges, which basically sort of act as an on-ramp. Anything you want to do in this sort of Web3 world, it has to be done through cryptocurrency. So the first step is basically people have to buy these coins from exchanges. So in Bahrain, the groundwork is set, the framework is there. Apart from, there are companies doing out there, but there hasn't been any implementation at a very large scale. There are a few projects here and there, but nothing has been done at a very big scale.
Are you spending in cryptocurrency yourself?
Oh yeah, obviously. Like normally whenever I have to pay, so we have few developers in Portugal, we have some developers in these remote countries where sending money through bank or through an exchange is nearly impossible. Yeah. So we do the transactions in crypto. It's instantaneous, zero fees, and it's easy for us, right? So normally we accept the payments from client in crypto as well. So we are sort of half crypto, half normal transaction. Nice. And the thing is, we own that money, right? You know bank runs, right? What happens with bank run? So people keep money in the bank. They trust the bank that the bank will keep their money, but at any given time, the bank can stop you from withdrawing your money. The thing with crypto is no one can stop you. You own them.
And pre-pod, you said something quite controversial, didn't you? That the financial system is broken.
Yeah, from my understanding.
So can you elaborate on that?
So as I mentioned that when the gold standard was broken, initially a country only creates that much amount of money, which the amount of gold they had, right? But that gold standard was broken, and basically US was printing as much money as they want, and the rest of all the currencies, with including Bahrain, is tagged to that dollar. But they're printing out of thin air. There is nothing to backing it up. So that sort of creates all kind of problems. So that's why the crypto is answer to that broken financial system.
Right. So
So
how's anybody going to follow you into Web3?
No, I'm not telling anyone to follow me.
No. If
as
you
in,
wanted to,
obviously-
it's a choice.
obviously, it is where everything is heading.
Yeah.
So, what do you say when you go and meet a client and it's like you meet different clients from different industries?
Yeah.
For each industry, this applies differently.
So initially, our approach as a company was that we were going after people and telling them what to do. We kind of changed their approach, right? Because the thing is, the end user doesn't care about the technology, right? So let's say if you send me a message on WhatsApp, all you care about is your message being sent to me. You don't care about what protocols are being used, which router the message is being sent. So the same approach is what we're taking with Web3. Instead of going to these companies and telling them come to Web3, we're sort of building products and solutions that would allow them to use this technology without even knowing them they're using this technology. So I'll give you an example. Recently, ChatGPT kind of created a lot of buzz, which was basically a large language learning model, which means you might have used it initially. So the thing was, I wanted to try it out for myself, but I couldn't try it because it wasn't available in Bahrain. So what I did was basically I sort of found a hacky way through buying a US mobile number, and through VPN I could get access to it. But I found out that people in my surrounding did not have access to it. So I thought, okay, what if I could bring it to WhatsApp, right? So normally imagine if you're talking to that sort of ChatGPT through WhatsApp, right? I built that tool and I gave it to my mother. My mother started using it, right? She used it for fixing her texts, generating recipes and all kind of stuff. So I told that my mother is using AI without her knowing that she is using a language model or AI. So that was kind of a breakthrough moment. So again, with Web3 itself, with blockchain and cryptocurrencies, there would come a time, which we are slowly moving towards, and companies like ours are enabling it, is that the end user would start using these products or solutions without even knowing that underneath they're using these technologies.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So your studio is called Nalikes Studio.
Yeah.
Which is what you should know what Nalike means, okay? And he'll explain what that is.
I don't know.
Yeah, so Nalikes means misfits in our language, which is Urdu, and mostly in the subcontinent, it means misfits, right? So when I was young, way young, in 2012, my brother had a YouTube channel where we used to create this funny content, right?
Is there anything that you've not done? He's done everything.
Yes.
I don't think he's had a childhood, has he?
Oh, yeah.
So we used to create these funny content, and I was basically the brains behind that channel, but I was camera shy. My brother was he was the actor. So I used to create scripts, I used to record videos. I told him, okay,
Did you know your brother?
No, he's Wahab, he's younger than me.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically what he used to do, it was called WPlay. So I told him, let's change the name to Nalikes Studio, where we'll bring in all our friends, all our cousins, and we'll create this funny content. He was like, no, I will not allow you to do that. And that's sort of, we ended the business, that idea there. So I already has in my mind that when I do my thing, I want to call it Nalikes, right? And that's when I met my friends and co-founders. We started going to these events, and everyone was calling themselves tigers, lions, falcons. We're like, we don't want to call animals, we'll call ourselves Nalikes, right? So that started sort of a fun way that, these guys are fun. And what happened, it's slowly over time, it started becoming our identity. Oh, these are Nalikes, right? So it sort of had a ironic name, right? Like it was misfits, but whatever these guys do is the opposite of it.
But I also see that it's a fantastic sort of a defense in the way that if they don't deliver, then we'd anyway say कि नालायक ही है, huh?
Yeah, that's the thing.
मतलब वैसे ही नालायक ही है.
Yeah, and then when we started this company, obviously it sort of have become our identity, so we could not change it. So that's why we registered our name, and it acts as a funny story when it helps breaking the ice with the clients.
Definitely, it's a conversation starter. At least for me, it was. I was like, did I read that right? It's like, okay, great, nalayaks. It's a Hindi word.
Yeah, it's a Hindi Urdu word, which means misfits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody who's useless actually.
Yeah,
That's what it
useless,
means.
incompetent.
Yeah,
misfit.
incompetent.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite, right?
I
Otherwise,
don't think I'd use a company.
Exactly.
you're very competent, and this is like a
Exactly.
sarcasm.
That's sort of an ironic.
Yeah, ironical thing. Huh?
Studio.
What?
It'd be difficult for me to use a business called the Incompetent Student.
No, but the thing is, our clients really like it. They're sort of, so our sales approach is sort of very human.
It's very disrupting in terms
Oh,
of
that's going to use
yeah,
that word. Yeah.
yeah. You'll use that word,
I was going
Nalikes.
to use that word for this the question.
Can you pronounce it?
Disruptor.
No, Nalike.
Like.
Yes. Yeah. Cool.
So I feel very old after that conversation. It's like listening to.
Oh, but he knows a lot more about crypto than he
he
lets on.
Yeah,
Okay, he knows a lot.
I think it's time we made some NFTs out of our program.
Yeah, definitely.
I may actually have some work for you.
Definitely. No, the thing is, I try to explain my mother. She asked me, what do I do, right? I sit her and explain her there. At the end of the day, when she goes to her friends, what does your son do? He creates websites.
Well, that's understandable though, isn't it?
I tell him, I don't create websites. I'm doing innovation here.
It's okay. I know. So, what's the vision for your studio? You've in your mission statement, you said that enabler of businesses in GCC. Is that your vision?
So, the funny story is then we were based out of Bahrain, but our clientele is in North America. But we have a unique advantage where we can, by sitting here, we can serve them, right, and be prepared for this region. So in the coming years, my vision with the company is basically I want to be the face of Web3 in this region. Any company, any organization, if they want to use technology, whenever they hear this word, our faces or our name should come there because we want to provide value to this region. And in this region, especially Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, UAE, a lot is being done and a lot will be done. And we just want to provide value. The thing with us is that we actually have hands-on experience and the execution that many other companies miss in this region. So that kind of gives us a unique edge.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I think I'm done in terms of questions. Do you have anything to ask?
No, there's a lot there.
Yes, there's a lot to digest.
I thank Talha for volunteering to come on the website.
I think we've learned a lot from this podcast personally, and I think
you should partner with him. There's a lot.
Yes,
in
I
both
already
of
have
your
some work cut
areas.
out for you. So I'll definitely be discussing that after the podcast. So thank you so much for coming and taking the time out. It was really, really a very delightful and very we learned a lot of new things.
Thank you for having me.
Modern,
Okay.
isn't it? Modern.
Yes,
or
very.
Future.
And
even.
I mean, these words are always thrown around like crypto, blockchain, but you don't really know exactly what it is. So all that clarity that you give on our podcast is going to be useful to not just us, but even our audience. And I thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
So you can find us on YouTube at MH Consultants, and you'd like to also follow us on Instagram so that you're updated about our latest podcasts. You can find us on MH Consultants _Bahrain. And as per usual, thank you so much for watching.
But before you go, don't forget that our sponsor is also into things like this.
Oh
isn't
yes,
he?
oh yes, but
Isn't he?
we will address that separately. So I'd like to thank EasyPay, our sponsors, for their continued support in this season. And yes, thank you, EasyPay.
Thank you.